Today we are doing one question for every NBA team, easily the most original concept in the history of NBA YouTube. You've never seen it before. Let's get into it. All of these questions are pretty significant to their seasons, I think, but that's just a general guideline. Some of them are just things that I'm more interested in rather than that concerned about. But with that said, let's get into it in the West. For the Denver Nuggets, how do you replace Bruce Brown's production? Not a commonly known or talked about aspect of this Denver Nuggets championship run was just how thin their rotation proved to be in like serious matchups. Other than Jeff Green, Bruce Brown, and Christian Brown, really did not see any kind of players producing off of the bench. Jeff Green has left the team and Bruce Brown has left the team, and I think Christian Brown could be very impactful and step up to the plate in that role to some degree. Not having Bruce is definitely going to hurt this team, and I'm curious to see how they're going to replace that production, what players are going to break out as potential playoff rotation guys, if they maybe trade for one of those guys at the deadline. We'll have to see. For the Memphis Grizzlies, how does Marcus Smart fit into this team's offense? Obviously, we know he's going to work just fine on defense. You don't really have to integrate a player into the defense all that much. But offensively speaking, Marcus Smart likes to dribble the ball. He likes to shoot it. And how reserved is he going to be in both of those contexts? He has never played with someone, I guess with Kyrie, but even then Kyrie was a more off-ball player than Ja. He's probably never played with someone who has the ball in his hands as much as Ja Morant has, and I'll just be interested to see how much he's willing to subdue the part of himself that wants to take over when Ja Morant is on the floor. It's okay for him to do it a little bit when Ja is off of the floor. Him being a little bit more aggressive and often a more capable scorer than Tyus Jones will probably help them to some degree, but yeah. For the Sacramento Kings, can this team do more than score the ball? As of right now, the personnel would suggest no, but it's not uncommon for a team to well exceed the capabilities of its personnel. It's more a matter of if their coach kind of pushes them in a direction to try a little bit harder on that end. For the Phoenix Suns, who will make major contributions outside of the big three? Other than like DeAndre Ayton, every player that is on this Suns team is a player that has not really been a key rotational piece, a high usage rotational piece. Eric Gordon is getting kind of old, so for the most part, this roster is not great outside of those guys. So is there going to be contributions from one of these guys? Is one, two, maybe in an ideal world for Phoenix, three of these players going to break out and prove to be true contributors? Again, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. I should probably avoid trying to say that at the end of all of these, but we'll have to see. For the Clippers, will this team, specifically Kawhi, ever get healthy? That is, of course, the same question that we have been asking pretty much since the inception of this team. When Kawhi Leonard and Paul George play together, the Clippers are devastatingly good. However, that seems to be far and few between when that actually happens. Whether or not they can be a genuine championship level team is entirely predicated on this question. For the Warriors, where the hell does Chris Paul fit into all of this? I honestly don't know if Chris Paul is a great player for the Warriors system, especially now at an older age, although maybe at an older age it makes him actually more willing to adapt to said system. Chris Paul is someone who likes to do damage with the ball in his hands, not a prolific high volume three-point shooter. He's been pretty damn good most of his career percentage-wise on not low but not exactly high volume either, and I do wonder how many threes he's actually going to be getting up with Golden State, and just the way the ball moves around, not really using a lot of screen action on the ball, that is, I'm not really sure how he's going to work there. I'm interested to see. For the Lakers, are they still going to lean way too much on LeBron? This has been the biggest problem with the Lakers the past couple of years, is they just need LeBron to do too much. Luckily in this postseason, LeBron really wasn't doing all that much because of a foot injury. That's not the part that's lucky about it, but what's lucky about it is they managed to get to the conference finals even in spite of that. So I would hope in the regular season, LeBron only has to put up like 22 points per game, not 30. And that would really do wonders in terms of this team actually being able to compete for a championship once the postseason comes around. For the Timberwolves, can Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert really work? These guys really did not play that many games together. And while I do think Karl's defense against fours might just ultimately prove that this is an impossible scheme here, I do think it's worthy of exploring the possibilities furthermore, especially because what else are you going to do? You invested 5 first-round picks into the concept. For the Pelicans, I have a very similar question to the Clippers. Will this team, specifically Zion, ever get healthy? Do I even really need to elaborate? When they're healthy, when Zion is playing, the Pelicans were the first seed. When he doesn't, they were not. So, will he be healthy? It's the only question that matters. For the Thunder, is this team ready to take the leap? I am personally of the opinion that the Thunder are on the verge of taking a significant leap and being a 50-plus win team, but it's always possible that progression does not prove to be linear because it isn't always that way, and there's a good chance that the Thunder just kind of repeat the same mediocrity they did this year, even with the addition of Chet Holmgren. I feel good about it, but I cannot place like a significant bet on it confidently. So yeah, is this the year for them to break the mold? Because it really feels like it could be. For the Mavericks, where are you getting the defense from? I know they drafted a rookie center who has some defensive chops, but banking on that guy being your solution on the defensive end of the floor is rather concerning. You traded Dorian Finney-Smith, who was probably your best perimeter defender. The only one that could compete with him is Maxi Kleber, and he's the only guy you have on this team who's a strong perimeter defender. A little bit of interior defense from him as well, just because he's a big man. But him and a rookie center is pretty much the defense that you're getting. And that's not great, to say the least. It's not the greatest in the world. I mean, Grant Williams is a cool defender. I guess him is fine as well. Luka has proven to be solid at points. Kyrie has even been solid at points, but I don't know where you're getting elite defense with this team. Not even close. For the Utah Jazz, are you going to attempt to win now or tank? The Jazz have enough talent that I think they could genuinely be a competitive team, as they proved to be last year until they became a little bit more conscious of the tank and made more deliberate efforts to lose. But they have a lot of young talent, enough so that I think they might be okay missing out on a draft this year that is not touted to be particularly great, and they could be a competitive team, or they could just lay low, lose a bunch more games, and get another high lottery pick. I honestly can see the justification for either direction. For the Blazers, are you ever going to fucking trade Damian Lillard? No more elaboration. Are you gonna do it? Can we cut this shit out? Thanks. For the Houston Rockets, will the investments into these veterans pay off or just take away from the young guys? I'm personally of the opinion that the new additions are going to be more of a problem for the young players than a positive. Fred VanVleet's someone who likes to take a lot of shots that I would rather be going to Jalen Green or Cam Whitmore or the Thompson twin. I don't really love that those shots are also going to be going to Dylan Brooks, and I just don't know that, especially in the case of Dylan, like, are these guys the amazing veteran leadership that a young team really needs? Like, maybe you can argue Fred is a champion and I believe a sixth man of the year at one point in his career, and like very, very good, an all-star. Sure, I can buy it with him. I don't buy it with Dylan Brooks, and even with Fred, I think the role that he undertakes offensively will take away from his teammates more than it will help them. For the San Antonio Spurs, how much scoring can we expect from rookie Wembanyama? I'm really interested to see what the pecking order looks like for the Spurs, because Wembanyama is going to be probably a little bit shaky offensively, but obviously he still has a ton of skills on that end, and they were going to look to feed him given the right opportunities. So I'm just kind of curious, is Devin Vassell gonna lead the scoring while Wemby gets like 16 points a game, or will it be more like 20 for him and 22 for Vassell? I don't know. All right, let's move on to the Eastern Conference. For the Milwaukee Bucks, is this roster enough? I do like the addition of Malik Beasley, but that being really the only big change you made this offseason does leave me a little bit concerned. This is still a very talented team around Giannis, but I just don't know that it's like so talented that I'm confident betting on them again. Obviously, they got embarrassed versus the Heat in round 1 last year. Sure, they might have won that series with Giannis fully healthy. I'd even say probably would have, but the fact that they got themselves in that position to begin with, the fact that that was as ugly as it was, I just don't feel that confident in the Bucks right now, and I specifically do not feel that confident that what they have in totality with their roster is enough to beat a couple of different teams in the NBA. For the Celtics, will they finally cut out the inconsistency? You can argue Marcus Smart was a huge part of their inconsistency, but Kristaps Porzingis is not exactly the beacon of consistency himself. It really is the biggest problem for the Celtics, though, and has been for years. Their ability to just absolutely suck ass for like 5-minute stretches of the game. Until they cut that out, I will never feel confident betting on the Celtics going all the way. So I think it's a fair question to ask. Are you guys finally going to do that, or are we going to keep playing this game with the Celtics where it's essentially like the fucking sitcom will they won't they between the Celtics and a championship? I'm tired of it. Please stop teasing. Get to it. For the 76ers, what the hell does this team look like outside of Embiid, Harris, and Maxey? Straight up, like other than like, I don't know, Shake Milton, 100-year-old PJ Tucker. What else is on this roster? Am I missing something? Am I forgetting a genuinely important player? Because I don't know if I am. I don't think I am. What else is going to be on this team other than whatever you trade James Harden for, if that happens? For the Cavaliers, will Evan Mobley take an offensive leap? Now, by offensive leap, I don't mean is he going to be some all-star player, but is he going to be more reliable as a connector, as a finisher, as a shooter even, as a playmaker? He has shown signs of being capable of being good at all of these things, but he has not done any of that with consistency, and when the playoffs came around, he was pretty much a non-factor offensively, which I think he is closer to being a non-factor offensively than he is to being an all-star level offensive player. So you'd like to see him move a little bit closer to that all-star tier, because if the Tim Duncan comparisons are going to become anything close to reality, offense is a part of that equation too, not just being one of the best young defenders the game has ever seen, which Evan Mobley absolutely is. I have no questions about his defense, but where he is as an offensive player, I think dictates Cleveland's success to quite a significant degree. For the Knicks, can this team go further, or are they capped out as a second-round exit? If I had to take a guess, I would lean more towards they're capped out as a second-round exit. For the Brooklyn Nets, can this team compete right now? That might be a weird question to some, but if you actually look at the talent on this team, there's a lot of really good defensive players, and then a couple of guys who can do stuff offensively. One thing you'd be banking on a lot if this team is going to be more successful than most anticipate would be Ben Simmons having a hell of a comeback year, specifically because playmaking is a huge issue for this team. Outside of, I think like 7 assists per game out of Spencer Dinwiddie, really nobody on this team can make a play off of the dribble for their teammates. Mikal Bridges can score off of the dribble, but that's pretty much the only thing they've got going for them in the creation department. So in terms of offense, will the offense be good enough to be a competitive team is a better way to put it, I'd guess. For the Hawks, will Trae Young finally start playing off ball? If I remember correctly, I know there were hints at something like this occurring with their new head coach, but I would like to see it be a bigger split than it is even now, especially when you have DeJounte Murray as such a capable ball handler. For the Raptors, how many years of mediocrity in a row will it take for Masai Ujiri to lose his untouched reputation as the god of executives? That's all I want to know. How many years do the Raptors have to be a 42-win team before we start to be like, okay, you're resting on your laurels a little bit here. How about you do something? That'd be nice. For the Chicago Bulls, when are you going to stop dicking around and blow this team up? Everybody and their mother knows that this is not a championship team. Everybody and their mother knows this isn't even a good playoff team, and no amount of small lateral moves that you keep making is going to change that. So either blow it up, which is what you should do, or at least have the gall to trade for more players to make the team better, like a Tyus Jones, for example. But just continuing to put your head in the sand and not doing anything different is a fucking disgrace. It's malpractice as far as I am concerned. For the Indiana Pacers, who is going to fall in line as the clear number 2? If you take a look at all of the options that the Pacers have offensively, of course, outside of Tyrese Halliburton, the guy who is like the second key part of their offense, it's really not defined, which, you know, isn't the end of the world. They obviously could still be a good offense without like a clear distinction between Buddy Hield, Benedict Mathurin, and Miles Turner, and hell, maybe Obi Toppin this year. But, you know, it would be nice to have a guy that you can rely on, really. Like, imagine Benedict is like a real go-to, like, level 1 scorer for them. Tyrese Halliburton has improved quite a bit as a scorer. Volume would need to increase to be a lead 1 option, but he's efficient from everywhere on the floor. So just to have another guy that you can go and bank on being like a star level scoring threat, that would make a real difference for the Pacers. Right now, it's kind of Tyrese just facilitating between 4 different 17-point per game scores. For the Washington Wizards, will this team do anything but put up empty numbers? I'm curious if there's going to be things about the Wizards to actually be excited about or interested in, or if this is just going to be a year to forget, which is honestly most years for the Wizards. For the Orlando Magic, what does your guard situation look like? I feel like this has been muddied for years. We still probably won't get a solid answer this year, but it would be nice. Markelle Fultz has looked pretty damn good when he's gotten consistent run, and Jalen Suggs has improved quite a bit this previous year. Still don't know how good of a player he's ultimately going to be, but he definitely improved as a shooter, improved as a defender. Cole Anthony, I think, really is destined to be a 6-man, and I think that's where Orlando's going with him, but, you know, he's someone else to throw in that equation. As of right now, Markelle is the clear starter, but I just don't know what that guard situation looks like 2-3 years down the road. For the Charlotte Hornets, when will this team's offense embrace LaMelo Ball? This is something that I think is under-mentioned when it comes to LaMelo Ball and the Charlotte Hornets in general, because it's the Charlotte Hornets, so whoever talks about them to begin with. Their head coach has just never really embraced LaMelo and just let him completely run the show. Back when Mason Plumlee was on the team, he was genuinely utilized as a facilitator in the team's offense, arguably more than LaMelo Ball whenever they were in a half-court set. Now LaMelo has some issues actually scoring in the half-court and stuff regarding his rim pressure, but as far as I'm concerned, he should be your lead creator in any and all contexts, and it sure as shit shouldn't be Mason fucking Plumlee, and not throwing him to the Wolves now is only going to ensure that that is a limitation for him throughout the rest of his career, versus now, if you go, okay, you're dribbling the ball 90% of every possession, figure it out, he will. I think it's silly that you have a talent that can create shots as well as LaMelo can, and you're having him be a secondary playmaker in the half court. For the Detroit Pistons, will you stop fucking around with these other bigs and just embrace Jalen Duren? It could not be more obvious to me that Jalen Duren is the best player on the Detroit Pistons as a big man, that is. Among the centers, he's the best player on the Pistons. Not Marvin Bagley, not fucking, what's his name, James Wiseman. It's Duren, and we should not be giving him these guys who are going to take minutes away from him in the rotation. I know there's been suggestions that like Wiseman and Duren would play together. That's stupid. It's dumb and it won't work. So don't do it. Let Duren be your starting center and move on with your lives. It's silly. But yeah, that's it. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.